pace is not A, B story, A, B, C, D story, sophistication, layers, texture. You know, it's gone up a whole level than it was.
And does that mean that budgets have also gone up a whole other level to achieve all of this for all of you? I mean, Endlings, that's a big budget show.
Is it?
It looks like a big budget
yeah,
show.
it's bigger than, it's big to be done at that point.
Yeah.
Which meant we brought on 9 partners. So that, you know, it was great that we could find a consortium of broadcasters around the world to help us make that show and believe in the same vision that we did. But that's hard work at the beginning, right? Where you're getting 9 different people to agree to something that doesn't exist yet, right? And so we were lucky enough that happened, and we had CBC in Canada, and BBC and ABC and Hulu and NRD and SBT and I said BBC. Yeah. It was the second one. Anyways, so and others that I'm probably forgetting, and so it that took a global village approach to funding the show. And of course, I think like if you have a Netflix or an Apple or an Amazon or Disney, you could probably get that budget from one source. We find that working with multiple partners works for us because then we get all of those different global perspectives. And because you're going to find that sometimes in North America it's a little bit more conservative than, let's say, Sweden. In Sweden they loved androids and they were like, we love that gay robot, right? And so, and some of the things that were, pushed back on North America, we could push from the more, progressive European perspective or Australian perspective. So that works for us, especially on that show. We have other shows that have one network. But yes, budgets have increased, but I think they're harder to get, is what I would say.
On Marvel's side, you self-finance all of this, right? You're preparing, your budgets on the YouTube end are, I guess, depend on the concept?
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting is that if it's something like that competition show or our animation budget's been skyrocketing. The expectation with Marvel is high production values. At the same time, the audience is watching these YouTube influencers who are producing content really, really cheap.
Yeah.
So we're finding that we can do those kinds of formats very inexpensively. And then there are some times where we gotta spend the money, but maybe we do a few episodes and try out the format and get an instant reaction in terms of viewership on YouTube and social media, and then decide, okay, we can pursue this format further. So we're in a very different place because we're not investing in a whole season of 22 minutes on a lot of these formats. We're experimenting. And we're finding that most things do work and some things don't. Our animation budgets are increasing for separate reasons, but I'm not here talking about that today, but that's about resources. And it's actually a relief to be more in live action because the available talent and studio capacity in animation has reached a crisis point. Yeah. So live action is not only quicker and cheaper in many ways in these kinds of formats, but just more accessible.
And to see the evolution of the content on YouTube, or the plethora of it, because it just keeps getting more and more interesting. Yes, there are kids watching gamers play, and that's fine. But there are people telling linear storylines, narratives that are quite interesting in their own way. And I think kids are being exposed to a whole new way of telling stories, which is kind of interesting. On the BBC front, funding in the UK, I imagine it helps support a lot of these bigger live action budgets. Do you see that continuing?
Yes. Yes, we want to. Yeah, we want to be big and bold. I guess we are not doing as many shows, but the ones we are doing we're supersizing. So there's less churn. I hate that word, but less churn. And we often, alas, not fully fund things, so we're saying we'll go up to a certain point and then either get some funding, which can leave us vulnerable to other people coming in and taking on projects, and not naming any names. We want to be big and bold and keep pushing. But it is frustrating because you've launched a big show and you've done a lot of work around it, and a lot of social around it, and we've had cinema trials to launch something. Then it's very difficult for a new show to knock that off its perch, because the temptation is to recommission because you've done all that work to get it noticed. So it's tough for new people coming in, but but if you've got a great idea, we'll always want to hear it.
Great. And in Australia, the funding model is supportive, but some of these shows are really big.
Yeah,
How do you navigate that?
for us, I think we've just got a long history of co-production. It's how we've always done things for the last 30 years. I would love to fully finance something, but that's never going to happen. So we're always looking to work with partners around the world. We've just announced at this conference a more formal commitment with CBC, which is a really exciting new development for us. Obviously, we've done heaps of stuff with CBC in the past, but for us, I guess the marketplace is changing so much all the time. So we do a lot with the streamers as well. So we're working with Netflix on probably 4 or 5 shows. We obviously work with the BBC as well. So we really know how to do co-production well, and we have a very favourable funding, state and federal government funding tax credits that sit behind that. So yeah, I guess what we're seeing is the streamers and everybody's wonderful, but kind of what's old is new again. We're still working with the true and trusted partners that we've always worked with, and that's really exciting. But yes, we do want to do more ambitious shows. So I think we feel we need to take a bit of a part in helping people raise that money and making sure we put those connections in place and get other parties on board.
That's great. I do have a few more questions, but I want to open it up to everyone here. If you have any questions, we're about 11 minutes left. Anything? No?
So I kind of want to ask a little bit about reality with kids content. I ask because I come from the brand The Mini Pops, which originated in the UK as a TV show, and we follow the process of these kids actually making a CD, going live on tour, but we're trying to put a positive spin on it. So we follow their process and show what hard work is, but ending on a positive note. What's your kind of take on showcasing that kind of reality, I guess, for your channels?
Well, we've been experimenting a lot with that, and we're finding that kids want to see kids that they can relate to. But what they find relatable is a little different than we thought. We're finding that, as opposed to 10 years ago, boys are interested more in seeing girls and their journeys than they were before. 180 shift. Conversely, girls, the same about boys. Girls are interested in ethnic diversity, but also specifically as for body diversity, which is something that we're trying to address. Religious diversity has come up a lot. What we're now trying to figure out is where's the comfort level with LGBT diversity. I worked on a committee with GLAAD to help them put together the first award for family entertainment. And it seems like there's been some success there. Disney Channel launched the show Andy Mack and had a character come out. But there's a lot of pushback at the same time. So when you're dealing with real kids, there's all of these issues of portraying kids in the real world, and I think we're pushing the boundaries, but making sure that we're representing what kids want to see. What's interesting is that this is a rather blunt revelation, but when we were testing, the pretty blonde popular girl, girls didn't want to see that. They assumed that she was. I can't use the word, not nice.
Mean.
Just mean, a mean girl,
Yeah.
just because of how she looks. So we're finding that the pendulum is swung another way, and so we're trying to make sure that the kids are relatable, and that's the most important.
I find that really interesting because I think the blonde popular girl trope was one that was used a lot by male writers, and male writers dominated the industry up until, I don't know, now. And so, I mean, as we see more diverse voices, more women showrunners, more diverse people in the room, that blonde popular trope I think is going to go away. And it'll still exist, obviously, because that person still exists, but maybe she'll have more nuance. Maybe we'll understand why she's so mean. Maybe we'll get a sense of who that person is beneath the pretty blonde girl. And I think that, in terms of showing kids reality, that's our responsibility. And I think showing their struggles and their joys, and that life isn't easy, and that you're going to have your ups and you're going to have your downs. I think that is what I think we all do in both reality shows and in scripted.
And the unique challenge for kids live action is casting kids. And the speed at which they grow and how quickly you can get a second season or multiple seasons going forward. Who wants to talk a little bit about that? I know from a producer standpoint, you probably have a lot to say.
About casting?
About casting kids
Yeah.
in particular.
Oh, for sure. Casting kids is one of the things that we, it's where the company started. So basically, this company started with a 6-minute live action documentary show that was called This is Daniel Cook. And it was JJ, one of the founders of the company, was working at a talent agency, and this little kid walked in, and his boss was like, "This kid should have his own show." And he said that to every single kid who walked in the door. But this time, JJ was like, "Yeah, you know what? This kid should have his own show." He was really funny, he was really irreverent, and he was real. And one of the questions that he said that was like, "Who do you like better on your shows? Like, who's more interesting on Transformers? Do you like the villains or the heroes?" And he's like, "Oh my god, I love the villains. They're way more interesting. They have so much more to say." And then he just became this little person who had this point of view that we had never seen before. And from that show onward, it's all about finding real kids. And it's hard because a lot of the kids in TV, and I'm sure a lot of people can speak to this, they do this, right? And they have jazz hands, and they're like, "Look at me!" And it's very unrealistic, and that's not what we do at Thinking Ship. And so you have to dig deep. You have to ask people to go back, and you have to ask people, agents, casting directors, whatever, do you have other kids? And it's about, you keep asking, because sometimes people will take the first batch of kids that come in the door because they're like, these are the only kids that exist out there who want to do this, and that's not true. They're out there, they just need the opportunity.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about that last point. If they are too slick,
Yeah.
kids smell it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we started using a live action kid, it was a Disney Channel star that Disney Channel compelled us to use.
Yeah.
And the reaction from kids was the word douchey.
From kids. Yeah.
And we were like, jeez, that's kind of harsh. He was a talented kid, but no, they want kids who are good.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think you just have to work much harder than ever. We got a show called Almost Never, which is about a fantastic boy band. We saw 4,000 kids with the three main parts. And you kind of cast it. It's not just casting. Don't just go to casting directors. You use social network and cast the net very wide. Have people trawling through YouTube to find different kind of
Within
kids.
cultural communities as well, cultures that don't tend to encourage their kids to act.
Yeah.
So you
Yes.
really need to dig in and find raw talent that might not have that expertise, and then stay with them and really help.
That's newspaper articles, that's community groups, that's, going to schools. Like, we don't necessarily do that personally, but people who do that, you just have to keep looking.
Yeah.
Questions back there?
Hello, this is Eva Gomez. I would like to find out how independent producers can approach you with creative ideas.
Email, get in touch.
Yes.
We've got a commissioning website at the BBC, so it shows you sort of the latest brief of what we're looking for, and it's got all the email addresses of the different age groups and the different genres.